Life is definitely stranger than fiction. Thank you for tuning in for today's show, and joining me as today's very special guest is one of the leaders of the global awakening movement. He is also the host of the CrowHouse and Surviving the Matrix, and so much more. I have the honor and privilege of interviewing my friend, Max Egan. But before we get into it, if this just happens to be your first time ever watching any of my videos, I do encourage you to explore my channel. Make sure you're subscribed, smash that like button, and hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date with my videos as they come out. Be sure to check out my Patreon channel where I post up exclusive content, you get early access, and I'm doing monthly giveaways for patrons only. It is also a way to support the channel directly. Be sure to follow me on Library where I post up extra content. Check out my audio podcast, Rice Radio, that is hosted on anchor.fm. It's available on every major podcasting platform at Rice Radio, and new episodes are coming soon. I've also recently partnered up with Money Metals Exchange. You can get a free half ounce of silver if you're a first-time buyer. Visit moneymetals.com. If you purchase $100 or more in precious metals and you use the promo code RICE, you'll get a free half ounce of silver, and it's an additional way to support the channel as well. I'm going to have links down below for everything I just mentioned, as well as everything we talk about on today's show. And we're just going to go ahead and get right into it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, joining me today on the show is Max Egan. He is not only a researcher, a truth seeker, a radio host, a filmmaker, a content creator who is the host of the CrowHouse Surviving the Matrix, but most importantly, he is one of the leaders of the global awakening movement. And I have the honor and privilege of getting to have a conversation with the man himself. Max, I really appreciate you accepting my invitation and coming on the show. How you doing today?
Good, brother. Good, brother. It's good to see you again. And thanks for asking me on. It's nice to come and chat to you.
Yeah, man. And it is good seeing you again as well. We got to meet at Anarchadelphia a little over a year ago in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which was really cool. And you agreed to do an interview back then, but it just now happened. And I've really started to realize that sometimes we want things to happen, but the universe allows them to happen as they need to happen. And I think it's going to make for a much better conversation. So, I mean, people should be familiar with you. The one thing I do want to stress real quick, just because we've hit another speed bump in censorship and a fight against freedom of speech. We've had a lot of people banned from YouTube, but this has happened to you in the past. So you've been banned from YouTube. How's that going for you?
Oh, it's a great feeling of freedom, actually. I have no problem at all being banned from YouTube. I mean, I was there for 13 years. They deleted, 13 years of my work, but it was kind of freeing. I mean, I knew it was coming. I don't have to tiptoe around what I say anymore. I mean, I've been banned from Facebook. I've been banned from YouTube, banned from iTunes, banned from Spotify. I just got a suspension on Twitter yesterday, but I think I should be good today. So, yeah, I mean, it's just an ongoing thing. I don't mind at all. I'm happy to. It just shows that what I'm saying is it's true. So they don't want it going out there. So I don't have a problem with it. I mean, a lot of people sort of would think I'd be worried. A lot of people, I find that when they are banned from YouTube, it's a kind of a feeling of freedom for them. So yes, YouTube's dying. YouTube's just like the mainstream media now. Mainstream media and fluffy bunny videos. So what's the point of the place,
I get you, man. I get you. And I appreciate it. I like the way you said it. And we can't really talk much about it, but soon there'll be some announcements for a network that me and you both will be involved in. And that's kind of what led to me being able to reconnect and make this happen. But I mean, you talk about things on your shows involving everything from the criminal nature of the world governments, the social credit score systems, 5G, Internet of Things, AI, ancient civilizations, propaganda, the true nature of reality. I've got a lot of questions for you, and I hope this gets to be the first of many. But before I really even ask any real questions that I have, is there anything on your mind, any real message that you want to get out to people that you think is relevant and imperative to the times that we're in right now?
The world is being restructured, revamped. We are seeing a worldwide socialist communist model being rolled out right across the whole world. This is something that I warned about at Acapulco like 2 years ago. I started talking about the social crediting. Nearly 3 years ago, I was talking about the social crediting system and how it was coming to the West. What we're seeing in the world today has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with any virus. And it is important that people see this. If people think COVID is real, they must have rocks in their heads. Honestly, it's so obviously a fraud, and people really need to get a grip on what's happening and start pushing back. I'd like to put that right out there to begin.
Now, real quick, to pause you, I mean, you're not saying that there's not a virus. You're just saying that what they're using as the excuse that they're calling the virus is not legitimate.
There is no COVID-19. I have no problem saying that. There are coronaviruses. We all have coronaviruses in our body. You could say there is a COVID-19. It's the coronavirus of 2019. There was also a COVID-05, a COVID-06, a COVID-07. Every year there's a seasonal flu.
Right.
So there's a COVID for every year. There is no pandemic. The death rate is actually lower this year than what it's been any year in the last 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
Where is the pandemic? It's ridiculous. It's a quantifiable fraud. They haven't even isolated the virus. They haven't even identified it properly. What they did was they found, even when you look at the same reports that are coming out of the CDC, there's a report that says that apparently COVID-19 has something like 39,000 base pairs in its DNA strand, and they've located 37 base pairs that they think are COVID.
Okay.
And what they did was they used a computer model to construct the rest of it. The other 38,900, like ridiculous amount, like 99.99% of the virus they used a computer model to construct. And as put by David Icke recently in a talk that he did, this is the equivalent of someone finding a piece of a horn, a piece of hair, and a piece of a hoof and saying, I think this is from a unicorn, and then using a computer to construct the rest of the unicorn, and maybe constructing 5 or 6 unicorns and then getting a vote from the room on which unicorn they think is the real one. That's the method they use to identify this virus. So what on earth are they testing for? The PCR test they're using cannot even test for viruses. They simply multiply a genetic environment. The inventor of the PCR test, who conveniently died 2 months before the pandemic was announced, said you can't use this for testing for viruses. They've never done a Koch's postulate and identified it. Wearing masks is bad for your health. It destroys your immune system. Everything they're doing is backwards. So like I said, if people can't see this, they got rocks in their head. This is all about control. It's all about bringing in a world socialist system. And another thing people should be thinking about, if they don't think it's planned, I mean, you just got to look at the World Economic Forum to see how well planned it is. But if they don't think it's planned, about 3 months before this happened, you notice all the signers come out, all the people doing sign language on the news and stuff now. Why is there so many people doing sign language on the news now? And they were doing it 3 months before the pandemic started. Okay.
I don't think I've noticed that.
Deaf people usually lip read the news, but they put signers in months before the pandemic was announced so that the deaf people would get used to seeing the sign language, because everyone's going to be wearing masks and they can't lip read in another month down the track. So they put that out there to get them used to the sign language before the masks came out. That's interesting. That shows pre-knowledge of what they were going to do, the fact that people were going to be wearing masks and the deaf people weren't going to be able to lip read, And where do all these signers come from? How many millions, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people doing sign language on news reports? Every news station's got someone there doing sign language on it now. Where'd they all come from,
Wow. Yeah, no, I mean, I never really even thought about that. That's intense to think about. I mean, aside from the fact that this is about control and leading us into a socialist type society, do you feel like there is anything on this planet that's trying to fight against that to not allow that to happen? Or are we just, is this happening and this is where we're at?
Well, it's happening and it's where we're at, but there is a huge pushback of people. A lot of people are waking. I mean, they've red pilled the whole world basically with this. there must be hundreds of thousands of people here in this country who know this is a fraud, who want to push back in some way. It's just getting that cohesion, which is what all the social distancing is about, why they won't allow more than 6 people in your home,
Yeah.
because they don't want anyone fomenting plots. They don't want anyone getting together in crowds and saying, hey, this is all bullshit and we need to push back. They don't want a revolution. That's why that's what all this is about. But there is a huge pushback. The problem is people are just complying with the regulations, and they're complying with all the smart tech, and they're just being led down this pathway. And I still don't use a cell phone. I still don't use a credit card. I will never wear a mask. It's got to the point. I mean, you've really got to think like Gandhi in this situation. Not that I'm a fan of Gandhi. He was a bit of a politician, but one thing he did say was that in these sorts of situations, you have two choices. Either you capitulate and you get led into whatever it is they're leading into, or you resist with every fiber of your being. And that's what needs to happen. And I think a lot of people are. I mean, personally, I will never wear a mask. I will never do what I'm told in any of this. If they want to take me away, well, I won't go with them. So it'll be a matter of, you will have to fight. You have to kill me right here, right now. I'm not going to die in jail. I'm prepared to die right here, right now, fighting you, because I'm not complying with this bullshit. And it's really got to come to that. People have got to stand their ground with this, and I'm prepared to die over this. I'm not going to back down in any of this. And that's the attitude people have to have.
Oh yeah.
It's sad, but that's the attitude we've got to have. I mean, this is a war. This is a war for our freedom. It's a war for our consciousness, and ultimately, it's a war for our souls. So now's the time to stand up.
Yeah, that was so well said. I got some things that I think will lead into this whole revolution, spirit of resistance thing. But what is the true nature of reality as you perceive it?
Well, anybody's guess. It's an electrical universe. You're an electrical being. I can find more evidence of this being holographic than anything else. We're basically here having an exam, running an exam. This is a soul test. We came here to see what our integrity is, I think. And I think that, there's too much emphasis placed on trying to save the physical around us and not doing the inner work inside us. Everything that's happening on the outside is a reflection of what's going on the inside with us. And people are terrified of their own personal power and of exercising that power. And I think, what we're seeing here is a collective projection of the collective state of human consciousness. And I see it as a great opportunity. I see it as a great opportunity for change. I think we could effect change very, very quickly if people simply stepped into their moral compass and stepped into right behavior, as Mark puts it. Don't comply with anything which causes you to step outside your moral compass, and you can change reality. And I think reality is easy to change. I mean, this could be anything we want it to be, this world, depending on what the collective believes it to be. Which is why they teach us all these scientific parameters. So everything's got to fit in this little box, You can't ever think outside the box. That's all magic and that's all bullshit. And, so, I think it's an electrical universe. I would suspect it's a single consciousness, What if it is? What if it's a single consciousness? What if you're the center of your own universe? What if there's only really one of us here, and everybody that we interact with is a reflection of us? And it's basically a soul test. And most of the people in the world aren't supposed to wake up, because that's how we purify ourselves. That's how we purify this consciousness so we can move closer to the divine.
Okay.
This could be just a way of removing the unwanted baggage as well, if you really want to look at it that way. As I said, it's a spiritual battle more than anything. And what they're attempting to do is lead people into the mainframe. Lead consciousness into the mainframe, get you so terrified of death, the one part of life which is inevitable, they will do anything to avoid it. And really, people are you've got to walk between the lines and do all this shit. You're living in a prison. It might be beautiful, beautiful trees, birds, all this stuff, but it's a prison. You're not free. You've never been free. And so we're going to do everything we can to avoid ever getting out of the prison, because we're so terrified of what comes after. When death is inevitable, it's part of life. But we will do everything we can to avoid that, even go into the mainframe and remain slaves forever and ever and ever, with no possible chance of ever escaping, because we're so terrified of death, because we've been taught to fear death. So I think it's a form of soul purification that we're dealing with here. And what if that's what it's about? What if most of the people aren't supposed to make it through? You know, what if it's a way of purifying your own soul, because all the people that you interact with are simply reflections of you, and you're getting rid of that baggage. It's just one way to look at it, you know.
So, I mean, that's some really deep stuff. You definitely, when I met you, there's something about you that seemed like a very old soul, maybe like even a shaman or a wise man or something. There's something about you, Max. I don't know what it is, but you're a gift, man. And I appreciate your knowledge and I appreciate your wisdom.
That's a
Truly.
beautiful thing to say, brother. I appreciate that. I'm nothing special. That's the point. That's what I've tried
I get
get
that. I
to
get that. I'm
people,
not trying to
you
put you
know.
on a pedestal and feed your ego. I'm just trying to let you know I'm really appreciative of what you're doing. And I do look at I kind of have the Christ conscious. We are all an emanation of the one and a part of the one, and collectively we make up the whole. I like that
Mm.
idea. But what you just said was really powerful as well. And it's definitely something that people should think. And that's where kind of surviving the matrix, I'd like to more take this into breaking the matrix. And so, what do you think people can do aside from simply not complying or not participating in a nonviolent, productive way to bring about this actual change that we're talking about?
Well, it's difficult. I mean, you've got to spread information. I mean, what we're facing really is, I mean, I did a show a few years ago called Giving Life to Lucifer, where I talked about the rise of the Lucifer system, which is essentially the smart grid that we're moving into now. If you really want to look at Lucifer, what is that? Break the word down. Lucifer is the bearer of light. Well, what is light? Light is information. Um, what gives us more information than anything? The internet. And what does the word Lucifer break down to? Lucas, light, cipher, code, the code that bears the light. What is the internet? Where does this thing come from? The legends of the scrying mirrors. When you look into the scrying mirrors, you can see the future and the past and all this sort of stuff. These are the black mirrors. These are our computer screens. These are our cell phones. So really, when you look at it, we're getting to a point where we are creating the emergence of virtual intelligent life on the internet. The internet itself is becoming self-aware. It's becoming autonomic. When it becomes autonomic, fully self-functioning, self-programming, self-healing, self-correcting, self-defensive, like any body, any living being, that becomes its own form of consciousness. And that is a Lucifer system. And that's what we're handing all our power to. I mean, really, we're going to go to an inevitable conclusion now, because people won't put down their technology. They won't put down their scrying mirrors, is the problem. And really, if you want to see the way out of this mess that we're in, when I've analyzed this so many times, and I've thought of all sorts of pushbacks we can do. Even if we were to pull down the entire deep state, which is simply the state, the deep state is another name for the state. That's what they do when they close the doors, folks. There is no deep state. It's the one thing, you know. When the TV cameras turn off and they close the doors and they go back to doing the stuff they do, they're not sitting there crunching numbers and thinking of ways to make a better world when they close the doors in the White House. They're having sex with children and snorting cocaine and doing all the things that these people do, taking adrenochrome and all the stuff that these people do. It's not what people think. So when we look at this is what we're dealing with. You could pull down the entire government system, and the problem is the tech companies behind us that is rolling us into this new world reset. The only real way to stop what's coming is to shut down the internet. Who's going to do that?
Mhm.
Nobody's going to do that. So really, we're getting to a point. I mean, we've done our best to wake people up, and honestly, ignorance is a choice. If you can't see that this is a fraud, then you've got rocks in your head. It's as simple as that. And if you wanted to even get biblical about it, you can look at all of this stuff, all the stuff they're putting in now, the 6-foot distancing. The number 6 is coming up everywhere. 666, you know,
Yeah.
everywhere it's coming up. And if you really want to look at the Bible, there's a part in the Bible, one passage in the Bible that says there will be a time when we will pass the point of no return, and God will cast a cloud over people's minds whereby they cannot be woken up from that point. You know, and we've got to the point now, you can show people information about this COVID that it's
Yeah.
completely a quantifiable fraud, and they can't see it. They just can't see it.
Wow.
So we've got to the point where it's coming down to a personal soul choice. You're going to face a test. We are all going to face a test, and we're going to be given the option of whether to comply or whether to stand our ground. How much integrity do you have? Are you willing to comply to avoid the one part of life which is inevitable and get led into the mainframe to be a slave forever? Or are you prepared to just stand your ground and say, hey, no, fuck you. I'm not going to prison. I'm not wearing your mask. Are you going to kill me now? because I'm not going with you, you know,
Yeah.
and that's the way it is. And that's what I'm prepared to do. I'm just not going to comply. When it gets to that point of making that personal choice, and it's a personal choice for everybody, we cannot save everybody. I've done my best to help show people and guide them to the pathway, to the doorway. But it's a personal choice. The whole thing is a personal soul choice. You can't save anybody else's soul, and neither can I. All I can do is help offer advice to them and show them that there's a doorway there that they have an opportunity to walk through. Which is why in a lot of my shows that I've done, I very, very rarely make claims. I'm usually asking questions and encouraging other people to ask questions. Because if they ask the right question, then the right answers will be presented to them by default, and they can see that doorway's there. But I warn them that if you want to look into that door, the blackness that you're going, it's so dark, some of the information, you really need to be prepared for what you're going to see. So I'm giving you the choice. I'm not just going to give you the information. I'm just going to tell you the doorway's there. I'm going to suggest you ask some questions. And if you are powerful enough and strong enough in your soul that you choose to look into that, well, that's your choice. I can't just give that to you and destroy your life. You've got to make the choice as to whether your soul is strong enough to do what needs to be done, you know? So I think that's what we're heading to, brother. We're heading to a point where it's coming to the personal choice that everybody is going to have to make through this. And as I've said, we're too intent on trying to heal the physical world around us without ever doing the work to heal what is inside us. And if we do that, the world will change around us by default. I mean, we could literally change the world in a day if everybody just woke up and had this epiphany and realized they have value, you know? So
Yeah, it's a powerful
that's the
thing.
situation that we're facing, brother. We're facing a situation where it's coming down to that personal choice, that personal soul test that you came here to participate in. And that's the real exam, because the main event comes after this. This is just the test.
Well, you seem to be in tune with a lot of things, and this wasn't something I was going to ask you, but it kind of came up, made me think when you were talking. December 21st this year, and I think it started maybe June 21st. There's a lot of really interesting things happening in space and the constellations and lining up planets that is creating a lot of unique energy. And some people are talking about it, you know, the age of Aquarius, talking about solar flashes, talking about something happening that may activate something in our DNA. Do you know, like, do you have any thoughts on this?
It's a possibility. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and wait for some miracle from space to change the world. It's a possibility, though. I'm quite open to it. Those sorts of things, I mean, I can't predict them, and I can't tell people to prepare for them or how to prepare for them. I mean, these are galactic events, and a galactic event is a galactic event. What am I going to do? Build a shelter or meditate? Or, I mean, I'm just going to go with the flow. So I have this way I live my life. If you throw yourself to the wind, you can ride it. No stake in the outcome. Just go with the flow and see where it leads to. Always stay in integrity. Always stay positive. Always look for the right path to go. But, you know, don't have a stake in the outcome, because you have no idea what's going to happen next. And that's why I've kind of lived my life the way I have, and I've just kind of floated through it, and it's always worked for me. You know, the path of the warrior, brother, you face infinity without flinching.
Yeah.
The ability to be able to face with serenity odds and circumstances that are not included in your calculations, and just to be able to say, okay, well, this is where reality is now, so I'll go and find my way through it in that way. I mean, that's just the way you have to look at it. So there's a possibility. I'm hearing lots of talk of that happening. And when you look at the December 21st, 2012, that event that people said was a non-event, and I said, no, consciousness shifted, things changed. And I said back then that you're not going to see the results of this until we hit 2020, which is the 8 years from now, the universal symbol of completion. When we get 2020, the whole world will get 2020 vision. The veil will fall down. Maybe that will happen on
Yeah, it'd be
21st.
a beautiful thing. It would be. No, I mean,
although the veil is falling down a lot now, man, they've red-pilled a lot of the world with this scam they're running. So in many ways, the veil's already falling down, you know.
Well, there's a lot of people, like, you know, I mean, you're very unique, but there's a lot of people that have, you know, that's why you're one of the leaders of the global awakening movement. I mean, there's been a lot of obviously other people that have done a lot of great things. Now, you said like this could happen, but it's not something that you're sitting here counting on. So let's talk about this. I've been really researching things about the ancient occult commerce system and looking into Babylonian and the Phoenicians and where it leads to the Romans with Justinian and Corpus Juris, and then fast forwarding to the Magna Carta, and then the Seste KV Act, and then in the United States with the 14th Amendment, and then the Act of 1871, and then 1930s with the crash in the Social Security system, and the idea that we are legal fiction entities, that there's a straw man. Is there a potential possibility that we, the people, can stand up and change the governments around the world and still be able to have this tool, the internet, and still function as society and evolve the way we're supposed to?
There is. It depends on the dependence we place on the internet.
Well, let's just take the internet out of the equation, because that wasn't really part of it initially. But do we have the power? I know we have the power. What do we need to do as we, the people, to stand up and correct our governments, put them in check, checks and balances, rebuild, and make a better system that is more fair and equal for everybody?
Oh, we have absolutely the opportunity to do that, and we have the potential to do that. Sure, you know, that's what they're actually offering us. Only it's a Trojan horse in disguise with the whole new world reset. They're talking about cancelling debt and cancelling student loans and all sorts of stuff like this. But of course, it means handing all your everything over to the state, so you won't own anything. They're saying by 2030, no one will own anything. This is what the World Economic Forum is saying. No one will own anything, and they'll all be happy. The state will own everything. Everything will be provided for you. You know, but we absolutely have a possibility to turn it around. Like I said, the problem is though is the tech, because even if we do turn it around and create new government, if people still go down the path that they're being led by the big tech companies, it's still going to lead us into this AI control grid anyway. That's the problem.
Okay.
People aren't realizing that the problem is the AI.
So it's not the
Once
government.
It's AI and everything is tracked, everything is digital, you're hooked up to the internet, all this sort of stuff that they want to do. That is the problem. And it doesn't matter. In that situation, there won't be any governments. The governments will be there just in name only. It's, you know, just figureheads, because it'll be AI controlling everything. In that type of a system that's coming, you know, if you think outside the box or do something wrong, the AI will pick it up, and the AI will go and tell the cops to go pick you up, and your sentence will already be predetermined by your AI, by what your social credit points are. It will already know what your punishment needs to be. So it eliminates the need for the legal system, and eliminates the need basically for governments. So you'll have a central control AI, which is running absolutely everything. That's the danger of what we're doing. See, that's why when people think, well, you know, we've got to bring down the deep state and arrest Hillary Clinton and take control of our governments. Yeah, we do. But we've also got to see where the tech is leading us. It's a double-edged sword. I mean, the internet is a great thing. It could do great things for us. But if we're going to let it control and track all of our transactions, all of our money, control our electricity, control our biometrics, health passports, all this sort of stuff, well, it's not going to matter, because that's what's going to determine your purchasing power. That's where crypto falls down. It doesn't matter how much, you can have $1 trillion in crypto in your wallet. If your purchasing power, your biometrics says that you can't purchase those items, or you can't purchase airline tickets because of a post you put on Facebook or whatever. That's the problem, you see.
Yeah.
So we need to get rid of that type of dependence. That's the only way the internet can come back to something that actually serves us, rather than us serving the internet and it controlling us. And in that situation, it doesn't matter which governments we bring down. You know, it's just not going to work. It's the tech behind the whole things. And that's the thing. A lot of the governments that think they're controlling this, they're going to be subservient to this same thing. It's the way the news reporters are getting hung out now. Like New York Post was censored the other day on Twitter. You know, you had people like me being censored, people like David Icke being censored, people being censored all around the world.
Are we talking about the Biden thing with the New York Post, or is it something else?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, we've been talking about us so-called tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists have been complaining about being censored, and people like the New York Post have been calling us tinfoil hatters. Now they're getting censored. We told you, we said to the mainstream media, they're going to come for you as well, and the low-level politicians and all you police grummets, they're coming for you as well. You're not safe. You're just doing their dirty work for them, and then they're going to throw you on the trucks with everybody else. And that's just, we're seeing that now with the censorship of even mainstream news sources. And it's just going to snowball from there. So that's the problem, you see. It's the algorithms. I did a post on Twitter yesterday sharing Joe Biden, those videos of Hunter Biden. I just posted a link there on Twitter, And as soon as I clicked enter, within a split second, as soon as I clicked enter, I got a message up saying your account has been temporarily locked. So that wasn't a person, that's an algorithm that's doing
Yeah,
that.
it
The
caught you.
algorithms are already doing it. The algorithms are writing their own algorithms, and that's where it's going. And that's the problem, you see.
See, I never put these all together. I was looking at it as government being the problem, the deep state, the cabal. I mean, I knew that there was like the internet was a tool that could be used for good or bad, but I didn't think about this the way that you've been put it in perspective. And one of the things that I've been pondering is, it seems like a lot of this technology in a way has made us less human. And
Oh, yeah.
one of the things I talk about in my practice change stuff and being the change you want to see in this world is trying to get back to our humanity. And I think about this, like, can we do this with technology? Can we evolve while, like, at the same time going advancing technologically and keeping with our humanity in that evolution process? And you kind of gave me a little bit of hope that there is that potential possibility, but it's definitely going to be something that's going to take the majority of people to be awake, I would think.
Well, what we need the internet to do is to be something that we can use, like to inform ourselves, to communicate with each other. But when it becomes something that controls us, when it becomes something that does our thinking for us, people using GPSs to find their way around their own town that they live in, you don't know your way around the town you live in. People using the internet for all sorts of things, these personal assistants. This is stopping your ability to think. It's removing you of your cognitive function. Your brain is like any other muscle. If you don't use it, it becomes atrophied.
I
People
used to
can't even
remember telephone numbers. I don't remember telephone numbers now because I put them in a phone. So
Exactly. This is something
this
that
makes
I
complete
mentioned even
sense.
3 or 4 years ago. I said to people, if you ever got arrested by the cops and they gave you your one phone call, do you know one? Do you know a phone call? Do you know your wife or your husband's phone number?
I've
You
got
probably
numbers
don't because
written
it's in your
down.
phone. You
I've
never
got an
dial it
emergency.
anymore.
I got emergency numbers written down just in case, because my brain has been dumbed down to the point that I can't remember those numbers because I don't have that repetition going on.
Exactly. See, that's the problem with what we're doing with the internet. The internet needs to be something that serves us and encourages us to think and encourages us to become more human rather than, oh no, I can do that for you. You don't need to think. Everything's automatic. Just stay there. Everything's delivered by drone. You don't even have to get out of your bed. We just have it all piped into you. You can sit there and watch it on a screen, and you don't even have to go and communicate with people anymore. It's all done on a screen. So it's taking our ability, it's taking everything that it means to be human away from us. It could be a great thing. It could be like a personal library, personal entertainment system, personal library, and a great communication system. So I can talk to you. We can talk about what book we want to get or what film we want to watch, and nothing's censored. It's all there. But no, it's all controlled. It's all censored, and you can't think outside the box. And we will think for you. That is the problem: removing people of their cognitive function. Now, people are just becoming drones, doing what their phone tells them to do. That is the problem. So I mean, it's a double-edged sword. Sure, technology can be great, but we have given ourselves to it, and we are allowing it to control us. I mean, I still don't own a cell phone, and I never will. These are insidious things. Not only are they GPS tracking devices, they're thinking for you. They're tracking everything you do. If you look at the health app on your phone, it monitors everything about you. Your phone even has a barometer in it. It knows when you get in and out of a car. It knows when you go up and down stairs. It knows when someone gets in the car with you because the air pressure changes. It knows everything about you. It knows everything you do. That's there on the phone now, and that's not even hooked up to your body now. If they can manage to hook your biometrics up to your phone, which they want to do with the hydrogel,
Or
so
if
that
they get the smartwatches that people willfully buy and use, and that probably
yeah,
adds a lot more to the equation for them to get information and
yeah.
data and build up
And
on
what
your
they want to
digital
do when you look
profile.
at Bill Gates's digital currency he wants to implement, which is based on your health readings. So this will be determined by whether you've had your vaccinations, whether you're eating the food they want you to eat, which they're replacing meat with insects and all sorts of
Do
stuff. Now
you,
they're saying meat will be a delicacy in the future.
you
They're
mentioned
making protein bars out of crickets and insects. I mean, what?
That's
You know?
crazy. You mentioned the Microsoft bio the thing that they were talking about doing with mining cryptocurrencies. Do you remember what the patent number on that was?
Yeah, 060606. You can't make this shit up. I mean, they put it right in your face, don't they? But he's talking about that being the basis of your currency. So it's got to be linked up to your biology. You
Yeah,
got to be
you're like a
doing the right
hamster
things,
running
thinking the
around a
right things.
wheel to make money.
Yeah, eating the right things, doing everything they want. And if you don't, then you're going to be locked out of, you're going to be down on social credit scores and you're not going to be able to purchase anything. That's what they
Well,
want to do.
then you combine 5G Internet of Things along with all that, and and then you're incentivizing people to tattletale. You could be locked out of your home, and you could essentially
Hmm.
be you could be locked out of everything and just be a wandering vagrant.
And then, of course, you've got to get picked up and put into the quarantine center because you're obviously a dangerous person. I mean, they want to bring in voice-activated elevators, voice-activated locks on your phones, which will all be biometric. If you're down on social credit points, your elevator won't even work in your building. It'll be told not to recognize your voice, not to give you access. So they can, with this whole smart grid and the Internet of Things that they're doing, they can basically go by scan your house and see everything that's in your pantry, see if you've been buying anything that they don't think you should be eating. They can determine what foods you should be eating, depending on, we think your body type is like this. The algorithm has determined that you're this type of person. So we've determined this would be the optimum diet for you. So you don't even get to choose what you eat. You don't get to choose what you're spending any money on. You don't get to choose where you live. You don't get to choose what your job is. You don't get to choose any of that sort of stuff. You're just an automaton being told to do here. Otherwise, you won't get your universal basic income, so you won't be able to buy anything. It's total control that they're doing with this system. So, I mean, that's what the internet is becoming, unfortunately, and that's what the internet was always designed to be. And I think they've done this many times before. I really do. I don't even think the technology we're using is new technology. I think it's just filtered out.
I mean,
Some
I've
of
heard that too.
some of the research I've done on history and stuff, I've realized that most of our history is a complete fraud. They just write whatever they want. If you really look at it and you find, look into the orphan trains and the foundling homes around the late 1800s, how they basically repopulated most of the world with children. Just teach them any history you want. Tell them there's just been an industrial revolution and then gradually roll the tech out. Invent the radio for them, then invent television for them and invent all these things that you've already got. Because the real clincher is the legends of the scrying mirrors. When you see the scrying mirrors and you see the sigils, and when you look at the sigils are electrical circuitry. These are circuit diagrams. And the scrying mirrors are cell phones. So they've done it before. They've done this before. The scrying mirror, you look in, that you see the future and the past and tells you all the information you need to know. Like I said, Lucifer, the bearer of light, the black mirrors that people look into. It's all there in the legends, and I think they've done it over and over again. And I think it's a soul harvest is what they're doing. I mean, imagine if a lot of the people in the world, you'll never ever wake them up because they're bio robots. Imagine that they've done this time and time again. They've managed to harvest a whole bunch of souls and consciousness and lead them into the mainframe. And those people are in the mainframe, could be lying in, metaphorically lying in tubes like in the Matrix. Only they're not even that. They're just, their consciousness is actually in the mainframe on a silicon chip somewhere, and they don't even know it.
Right.
And they come in here and they drive these avatars and they think they're human. They don't even know that they're not human. And their whole goal is to create this whole mess so that the real souls can be led into the mainframe with them. And the ones that escaped and got away, well, we run the program again, see if we can trap them in this time till they've trapped all of human consciousness into the mainframe. It seems like something like that's going on. And this is a cyclic thing that they do every couple of 100 years. And then they just teach us whatever history they want. I mean, the civilizations and ruins that are lying all around the world completely belie the official narrative of history, completely blow it out of the water. There's no way the Scaligerian timeline and dates of everything, it's not possible.
Okay, so these orphan trains you were talking, what time frame were you saying that would have been?
Late 1800s, 1880, they were sending about 300,000 children east to west across the United States in orphan trains. They had baby raffles in Paris in 1912. That's how many kids they had. In Florence, Italy, in 1888, I think it was, there were 1,200 foundling homes in Florence, Italy. And to just 2 of those foundling homes, they had 91,000 foundlings arrive in 1 year. 91,000 kids. Where did all these kids come from? Why were there foundlings? Why were there so many children everywhere? Where are all their parents? Where did all these kids come from? you know. They just repopulated the world with kids. Interesting thing, if you really want to.
Well, where did they come from? It's a good question, though. Where did all these little children potentially come
Well,
from?
think of the story of the Pied Piper of Hamelin. When all the children were stolen and they were led into a cave by the Pied Piper. Nice little story. When you go to Hamelin in Germany and you talk to the people in the village, which I've done, you'll find that that's a real story. Their children were stolen. I don't know if it was a piper, but there was a time when all of their children were stolen. And it wasn't just Hamelin. It was right across Germany. It was right across Europe. Children were stolen. You look at now, there's around about 8 million children go missing every year. Where do they all go? Think about the giant underground bases, deep underground military bases, the DUMBs. Look at the timeline we're given for the Industrial Revolution, the progression of technology. Look at what technology was like back in the 1920s, 1930s, you know. Look at what it's become now. Look at the deep, boring underground machines we've got now. Look at the size and the extent of these underground bases and ask yourself, do you really think that they were built in the last century with the equipment that we've got? You really think that we had time and the knowledge and the machinery to build these things since the Industrial Revolution 200 years ago? Or were they already there? Were they already there? And is that where the children disappear to? And then every couple of 100 years, they have a great reset, and then they bring the children out and they teach them whatever history they want, tell them there was just an industrial revolution, and then they invent the radio and the television and everything for them and lead them back to the point where they got the scrying mirrors where they can harvest those souls and lead them back into the mainframe, and then they run the whole program again until they've got everybody. Perhaps something like
That's
that's
intense,
going on.
dude. I mean, not only I was thinking within less than a half hour, 10 minutes ago, I'm thinking you've explained so much, so simple in such a short amount of time. And when I asked you about when the orphan train thing occurred, it made me think, because I've been studying history and all of its discrepancies and all of the conspiracy theories. And I've heard about the mud flood and Tartaria and all these things. And from what I was gathering with the mud flood, sometime in the 1800s. I don't know what the truth to that is, or because there's so much distortion in history. It made me think about all of that. But yeah, dude, this has been like completely mind blowing. I listen to your stuff, but I mean, as a content creator, I can't listen to everything all the time, and it makes me want to spend a lot more time listening more to your content, because before I was a content creator, I was listening to you more frequently, and so much. And that was like really about 3 years ago. I still listen to some stuff off and on because I do love your work, but so much has happened since then. And for us to be where we are now and for you to break it down so simple, I mean, I listen to and interview a lot of people, and this has just been one of the most mind-blowing conversations as far as potential possibilities. And this would be something that I would actually like enjoy taking some mushrooms and sitting around and pondering on these things a little bit more deeper. Where do
The
you
most
think?
important thing through all this, brother, is to not move into fear through it all. Realize this is a spiritual test, and they've done this before, and there's nothing to fear. There's absolutely nothing to fear. You know, we're incredibly powerful, and it's coming down to that time where you're going to have to make a personal choice. But we're taught to externalize everything and see it as this. The world is not run the way people think it is. Forget the countries and China and New Zealand and America, and these are all constructs. The world is one big business. It's one big multinational conglomerate. You know,
Mhm.
you've got an international, multi-generational criminal cabal masquerading as a system of international governments and nations, and it's a people farm and it's a soul harvest. That's what they're doing.
Crazy, man. With all the 5G talk, and even David Icke bringing that up since you mentioned him, what do you think is going on? Because there's a lot of debate with 5G. What are your thoughts on
Well, the
5G?
debate, the 5G is needed for the Internet of Things. It's needed for them to have the bandwidth to pull off what they want to do. There's no way they're going to be able to have digital tracking and digital monitoring of everything without that type of bandwidth. You know, and apart from that, it's a weapon system, so it can be used to disable people, target people. And when you look at AI, the development of AI, artificial intelligence, look at something called Claws AI. You can search that on Google or whatever, DuckDuckGo, whatever you use.
How did you say?
Claws AI.
What is that again?
Claws is Claws.
Like
Claws AI.
CLAWS?
Yeah, that is cyber lethal autonomy for world security. Okay, Clause AI. They're
Okay.
talking about strong AI. They go on AI, then they want strong AI. Strong AI is robots like Terminator robots, and Clause is cyber lethal autonomy. They want to give lethal autonomy to the internet, so the internet can identify a criminal, and it can disable and target them straight away without any.
Like
An
predictive
algorithm will
programming and
do it.
then take somebody
Yeah,
out in the process.
can take somebody out to keep us safe for world security. See, if the internet itself has lethal autonomy, no country's ever going to attack another country because the internet will take them out. As soon as they even think about pressing that launch button, as soon as they start punching in the launch code, the internet will already be onto it and it will take them out itself. So that will provide security for us all. So there can't be a world war. But you take it a little bit, you're giving lethal autonomy to an algorithm, to a robot, to an AI mind. And once AI controls everything and it's doing everything and everything is monitored, as soon as you step outside the box at all, if you keep doing it, or maybe you'll be seen as a threat. Or perhaps when people realize that we've lost control of the internet and they try to regain control of the internet will simply see all humans as being the problem and it will simply lock everybody down. So it
You
can
just
run
gave the
things.
plot of the Terminator movie.
Well, yeah, that's what
And
we're heading for.
and in China, they actually one of those companies that does surveillance and facial recognition. They actually named themselves Skynet, which is the name of the AI that took over the world in that series. It's crazy, man. And like you said, they put it right there in front of our faces.
Yeah, and you can look up Clause AI. It's a reality. It's a reality. That's where they're going. That's what they want to do. Clause AI, strong AI, and Clause AI. So that is giving cyber lethal autonomy to the internet. Once that happens, it's all over for humanity. And the only way we will be able to continue as humanity is without the internet. So we're moving ourselves into a point where the internet will eventually lock us out itself anyway. Or it will completely control us. And again, you get back to that Gandhi thing where you've got to either capitulate or you've got to resist with every fiber of your being.
Well, if you look at everything that's happened on this planet and you logically, not emotionally, but just logically think about everything that's occurred and look at what's caused the biggest problem, I would definitely say that human beings are probably the number one problem on this planet. So logically, if I could see where something would say eliminate the problem.
Yeah, well, the reason human beings have become such a problem is because of the economic system that they've been subject to by putting an economic value on everybody and everything and judging everything by its economic worth. That's where the problem comes from. It isn't human beings per se, it's the fact that all human beings are kept in a state of artificial scarcity, whereby the only way they can get out of that scarcity is to exploit and abuse the planet or exploit and abuse the people around them, because they need to collect that paper they need to pay alive. And there will never, ever be enough paper in circulation for everybody to have enough to survive. And we're in a situation where exploiting the environment and raping the environment gives you lots of money so you can buy lots of toys and do lots of things. It's a state of artificial scarcity that people are kept in. And people, most crime is based on scarcity, unless it's a crime of passion, someone jealous lover or whatever, something like that. But usually people stealing is because they're in a state of scarcity and they believe that if they have this object, they're going to be better off. It's a crazy situation. So really it's the financial system and the imposition of economics over the human experience, which has created that problem. We created a system to apparently serve ourselves. The economic model is supposed to be there so we can perform commerce, but now human beings have become the most expendable thing within the parameters of that economic system, which is supposed to be serving us.
Yeah.
Suddenly we're serving this. We're exploiting the humanity and allowing the world to be destroyed around us in order to balance the books. That's not humanity that is the problem. That's the imposition of that system. So where did that system come from? How did that come about? Who imposed that? Was that AI? Is AI already here? How many times has this been running? Is this all being run by AI? Is that who they are? Is that why it's so difficult to find out who they are? Another thing to speculate about
Yeah,
is,
I've
are
always
they
wondered. I
hiding
always
land?
ask, who the hell is they? When everybody talks about they, who the hell is they? Because nobody can ever pinpoint anybody that is part of they.
Well, you always got to shake your fist at the Jews and all that sort of stuff. That's all been completely contrived. Sure, there's a lot of corruption going on there, but it's every system. That whole system has been there just so you can point the finger at it. I think AI is playing a big role in all of this, and I think it always has been. And I always often speculate whether they've changed the maps and they're actually hiding land. There's a continent that we don't know about at the North Pole or at the South Pole or something. We can't go there. We can never see, oh, yeah, control the flight patterns. How would we know if there isn't another continent here, another race of people that we don't know about that is simply in an area that we can't go to because our travel is controlled so much, our flights are controlled so much? How would you know? All they'd have to do would be taken off the maps. How would you know?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I've questioned whether or not the maps have been changed as well. I mean, I've heard a lot of interesting conspiracies or theories that where the United States is could have been um, Israel. I don't know. I've even heard things about Scotland area being possibly the birth cradle place of the world. So I mean, who knows? Like what we've been lied
They
to
change.
about.
Yeah, they change everything. I mean, the interesting thing is when you look at the story of Ulysses. Ulysses talks about sailing to a green island west of Greece, which of course would be England, that he named as Syria. And an interesting thing, when you look into Syrian history, you find the story of King Arthur there, only they've all got different names, but it's the same story. Interesting, as part of Syrian history, and now suddenly it appears as part of British sort of mythology, pseudo history.
Yeah.
Even if the rise of the British Empire, I would suspect, is probably more about Tartaria than UK. So, yeah, I mean, how do you know where anything even is? They've changed everything. They've changed all the names of all these places. I mean, who knows? Who
It's
knows
intense, man.
what's really going on?
It's crazy, man. Well, Max, I know that I pretty much have got the time that you allotted me, which I again I completely appreciate. Before we do
Yes.
completely wrap things up, I hope that you enjoyed this and that you would like to come back sooner than later, and we can continue these conversations because I would definitely like to pick your brain about a lot more things. But is there any final thoughts or anything that you want to leave people with before we do wrap up the video?
Oh, look, people are incredibly powerful. The most terrifying thing in most people's minds is to ever be responsible for themselves or to express their own power. They want to stand up and say no because someone will look at them, and they might actually have to follow through with that then. They just want to get the newsletter to tell them that the world has been saved. I'll find Max and I'll send him a Patreon donation every month, and then I'll hold his coat while he goes and saves the world, and then I'll get the newsletter. It's safe to go outside now. We're at one of the most important times in history, and this is the time when people have to stand tall and stand strong and be confident and powerful in themselves, and be prepared to face infinity without flinching. That's what this is all about. You came here for this test. Everybody came here for this test, and the worst thing you can do is to succumb and buy into the fear that is being spread at the moment with everything, even the fear of the rollout of this system. The rollout of the system that's coming, that's for the slaves to go into that system. I won't be going into that system. I'll leave the realm if it comes to that. Either we'll change it into something better or we leave the realm. That's the decision that you've got. And either way, it's going to be great. I think this is a hell of a time to be alive. So, and yeah, happy to come on again, Chris. It's actually great to connect with you, man. And because I remember meeting you over in Philly.
Yeah,
And happy to come on and have a chat anytime. I'm sorry I haven't got more time today. I've got people coming
no,
over. I got
it's
so much
okay.
stuff on.
You don't have to apologize
And
for that. I mean, you definitely don't. I just was hoping that this wouldn't be my one and only opportunity. So I'm just
no, not at
appreciative
all, brother.
of the time. So thank you. And if you could just bear with me 1 second, I'll wrap things up and stop the recording. I want to say something to you real quick. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to have links down below so that you can check out Max's stuff in case you haven't or you're not even familiar with the CrowHouse or Surviving the Matrix. Links will be down below for everything that you can check out. And as always, if you're not subscribed, I encourage you to be subscribed. Make sure you smash that like button and hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date with my videos as they come out. And I encourage you to be the change by practicing change.